question is that how does Shabda Pramana work? How do words work? Right? Because there is no, as Namita is saying, if I just use one word, limitless, Atma is limitless, it seems to be what? Just floating in the air. It doesn't convey anything. So I have to use some other words which are limited words to convey what I mean by that limitless. Right. So therefore, these words require to be handled to convey what they need to convey. Right? So that's why you can't say, let me just read what Vedanta is saying without seeing any teacher. Why? Because no matter how brilliant the writing is, each word is what? Limited. Right? Because we, in our language, the whole vocabulary is only for things that we see and things we infer. And everything that we see and infer is what? Limited within time and space. So our whole language, but it does, human mind is so sophisticated, it does talk about infinity. Right? So therefore, there is something, but then actually, even to convey infinity, what are the words we have to use?
Finite.
Finite. We have to use finite words to convey infinity. We have to use limited words to what the meaning of words which are necessarily limiting to convey what? Limitlessness. That seems like a tough thing to do. It's not easy. So therefore, what we say is, if you are reading the book, no matter what that book is and who has written this book, what happens is, each word cannot but be limited. And you yourself are operating within your paradigm of the world, which is what? Highly limited. Because you have what? Not only what? The Vyavaharika Mithya is not understood as just Vyavahara. But also Pratibhasika is understood to be Paramarthika. So that means there is such a mix-up with which you are reading these words. These words themselves are limited. How will they make you see limitlessness? So you can't say that I'm going to read books and then I'm going to understand what Vedanta Shastra is saying. This is where the role of Guru is highlighted. Tat Vignanatha. Guru meva vigachet. Go to a Guru who will unlock the meaning of these words and make you see your own true nature. What kind of Guru? Who is the Guru? A person who wears different types of clothes? A person who has some funny appearance? Not funny, something different. Who is the Guru? Shastra itself answers, Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Shrotriyam. Who is Shrotriyam? Excellent. Who had studied Vedas. Who has studied Vedas to first figure out what is Veda talking about when it talks about the nature of I. Shrotriya. It's not some fancy of mind or just, that's why the place that Guru has, if any Guru presents oneself as, I got it all. And if the Guru starts to become a highlight, it becomes a cult.
Becomes
A cult.
no, before that,
I don't know. You just listen to the tape. I mean, don't ask me to exactly repeat what I said because I'm talking.
If it becomes a
And
high...
before that what you said, and before I have no idea. My memory is more thinking about what is the next thing I'm connecting, I'm talking. So I don't know what I said, 2 sentences. See, this is our memory. How failing that memory is. Even 2 sentences before you ask me to go back, I don't remember. If you ask me to repeat exactly, I don't know.
it's like telling the Ganges water that come back 2 meters and tell me how.
How failing everything is. That's what makes you humble.
Feeling. You say how?
No, but that's why you also have to make fun of your own relative existence. Otherwise, what happens, you think you are great.
You're living in the present moment.
Sorry?
You're only dwelling in the present moment.
One has to learn to laugh at oneself, the relative self. Right? So therefore, Rajan may know what I said 2 sentences ago.
I like
It's our collective memory.
So, now. So therefore, Shrotriya. Shrotriyam is not just some random person who assumes the role of a guru and starts telling you whatever the stories. But there's somebody who has taken time to study and reflected upon what Vedanta Shastra is saying. Not only reflected upon and removed all the doubts, but what? Has assimilated this knowledge and what? There is certain amount of, the assimilation is such that there is no knower-doer discrepancy. It's very easy to say whatever, but it's very difficult to live it. And a lot of things, you give yourself away so much by involuntary talking that you do. Certain talking that you do is deliberate. A lot of other talking is mechanical. In that mechanical talking, what really is going on in your mind, it all just comes out. And you also give yourself away by the non-verbal communication that you do. Okay? So therefore, this is living life of alertness. Please don't begin to condemn yourself and say, oh, I'm like this. See, anything which is said by me at the seat as a teacher is the truth. Please don't take it personally. Many times what happens is, when the teacher is saying something, each one says, oh my God, I'm doing this. Oh my God, I'm doing that. It is nothing about you and me. Please don't take it personally. It's about our ways of mind. 100 years ago, somebody could be thinking like that today and tomorrow. So the teacher sitting at this seat has to do what? Remove all these inaccurate thoughts. It's nothing to do with one person or the other. when the teacher is doing that, the teacher is not criticizing anyone. Please understand. The teacher is just showing reality. Then, if one feels one has distortion, what happens? You bring it back to alignment. That is the only purpose. Don't start again saying, oh my God, I'm like this, I'm sorry, you keep on loading your eye with all kinds of inappropriate messages. So please avoid that. Okay? So assimilation requires what? Alert living. What is alert living? A lot of our behaviors are mechanical. It just happens by past patterns, habitual thinking. We fall back, you will see. You all came here with a certain thought patterns. You come here and for 10 days your thought patterns have changed because so much time you are spending listening to something totally different than your normal tape. Now you go back. Few days, the impact of what is being said will what? Continue. After that, what will happen? You go back. Hopefully to Rishikesh to get new inputs. If you don't do that, this is the nature of mind. It will fall back into the same way of looking at things, same way of interpreting things, same way of acting. It will go back. Why? Because the impact, all these patterns that you have gathered are a result of how many years of living? 40, 50 years of living. Right? Now 10 days are going to reprogram it totally and give you a totally different, yeah, Yuta says yes, lovely. Good, at least you believe that that can be done, so that's lovely. But I wish it was true for everyone. So that means you fall back. When you fall back, what do you have to do? Don't condemn yourself. Don't try to resist. Because this is how the mind is. Otherwise it becomes one more point of self-judgment. Before you had self-judgment which was highly limiting. Now you have one added limiting thing. Oh, I can't change my thought patterns. Please begin to. This is why this thing of every day reminding yourself that this body is manifestation of Ishvara. This mind is manifestation of Ishvara. It cannot but give you a good self-esteem. It will pull you out of this, this constant self-depreciation. Pattern, which is a pattern. Because otherwise what will happen? Oh, I have to understand limitlessness, but my mind is still getting what? Angry. And others will also remind you. You are studying Vedanta, but you are still getting angry. That will reinforce what? Your helplessness. Because before you were feeling small, and now, after listening to Vedanta, what? Your habitual way of dealing with the world is only from smallness, not from bigness, unless you have really gone through that growth process. So therefore, this all patterns have to be what? Addressed. And you actually, it is this flow, there is a flow which is in a certain direction. Now imagine if I want the river to move, which is a given flow which has its own reason. Now I want to divert that flow. So much of effort. Huge effort. Right? So then what I'll have to do? I'll have to create and say, okay, now this is a normal tendency, without condemning yourself. What? You slowly what? Make new, the knowledge that you have learned, what? Make it available to you when you are living your life. Then you make that small change. Then you make that small change. Then you make that small change. Every time your mind falls back, what do you have to do? Gently bring it back. Otherwise, that mechanical mind will continue.
It's like mantra meditation. You just
Yes, exactly. It is like
Fast
mantra
on.
meditation.
just
There is a given flow, then you begin to break that flow. You also begin to what? Gain focus. Wonderful. Okay? So this is something that you have to do. You have to live your life like that. So that is called Nididhyasana. Shrotriya means what? The person who has done Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasana. Has done that. Reflected upon what is being said and what? Undone the past habitual patterns. Use this knowledge to what? Help oneself to a totally new vision of life. And every activity, every decision making aligning to this new vision. Once one has done that adequately, one becomes what? Brahma Nishtha. Shrotriyaha Brahma Nishtha. Brahma Nishtha means the knowledge of Brahman is not some kind of a superficial thing. As Rajan says, a topic for tea parties. To drop the names, to drop some kind of a thing, right? It becomes what? The very purpose of your being. Okay? And then it becomes what? The pursuit, and then after the three things, it culminates into what? That vision which now belongs to Vedanta is now what? Transferred totally in your buddhi. Brahmanishta. There is no little subtraction or addition. It is what Vedanta is showing, is seen by you, what exactly as it is meant to be seen. Shrotriyaha Brahmanishta. Yes, you have a question?
Maybe you give a little example what you mean by, to make it more clear for me, that I can understand what you mean with transferring it to this Vedanta teaching.
Okay, so now, very easy, it's not difficult, right? You go to a class and if there is a professor, let's forget Vedanta.
Yes.
Let's imagine ourselves in class of physics, mathematics. The teacher is out there and is making you understand what? Algebra. Huh?
An equation.
An equation. Right? Now the teacher is giving you all the different reasons to see why this equation is valid. After 5 days, the teacher takes an exam. And it's not just asking you what that equation says, it asks some little tricky questions which tests how much you have really understood. 10 people are sitting in the exam room and they have to answer the questions. Does everybody get A plus? No. Who gets the highest marks? For whom the equation is most understood. So when I ask in different manner, you should be able to what? Figure it out. Otherwise, there is a sense, you feel that you understand, but actually you don't understand. That's why when teacher asks a little tricky question, you feel what? Oh, but this I haven't seen. Because what? Your buddhi is not applying itself to see, what this question is and how it refers to what the teacher taught. So you get stuck. The person who gets highest mark is what? Is happy. Is happy. Because what these tricky questions don't trick his mind. There is clarity. It's seen clearly. So you put it some other way, you understand. Put it some other way, you understand. That is what we call totally understanding. The others, can you say they totally don't understand? The person who gets A minus, the person who gets B plus, the person who gets B, the person who gets B minus.
Their correlation is not as clear as the person who's got a...
Excellent. It's not that they are totally ignorant. Please understand. Right? As Alok says, that understanding is there, but it is what? Partial. Hazy, partial, not totally understood. There is weakness, there is doubt. It's fraught with it's incomplete. Right? So therefore, and in that incompleteness, can you say that everybody is equally incomplete? There are gradations. Somebody has understood just enough to get only a B. Somebody has understood enough to get B plus. The other one has understood enough to get A minus. But there is also a person who gets A. And there is also one person who can get A plus. So therefore, there is always a dynamic. This is why we do a prayer. What? There is a dynamic in understanding because the teacher has to make an effort. Teacher is not independent of what you understand. Nowadays people tell me all the kids who go to school, they have tuition teachers. Tuition teachers means what? What is the school teacher doing? Taking the salary and doing whatever little partial teaching.
Telling the student what the tuition teacher should teach.
Telling, and also maybe outside, himself becomes a tuition teacher and teaches this more clearly. So therefore, the teacher himself or herself has to what? Prepare, right? You can't just come and start talking whatever you want. Then, but you have a brilliant teacher, but the student, the only thing that the student can do is what? Fall asleep. Because the mind just cannot reach that. It's just too big, too subtle. It used to happen to me, that's why I'm saying. I'm not pointing at anybody. So that's why now I have to say that, because everybody takes everything personally. I used to sit in Swamiji's class and I used to like fall asleep. Because before you come to Vedanta, who has made you think about all these things? Your mind is just not used to. And the more I was trying to understand and keep awake, the more my mind was tired. And sometimes I could, with a lot of difficulties, I would keep awake and I would go back home and sleep in my room for 2 hours. Because your mind has to become ready for receiving this. And that's why Rajan was saying, everything that I've done for last 7 years, now he sees it as preparation. Right? So therefore, this Brahmanishtha is what? The qualification of a teacher. The teacher should have understood in the first place. If the teacher himself or herself has a partial understanding, what will happen?
Confusion.
Confusion. Unintentionally, what will happen? Wrong ideas will start getting current wrong ideas. Atma is bliss. You revel with that bliss for the rest of your life. When you understand your limitlessness and the voice starts becoming slow. And then the person is talking like this, the spiritual master. Namita calls that you start becoming funny and acting funny. Not me, hopefully. Because you have to create this whole what? Aura around it all. No, aura.
Not
let's
that
not
aura.
use- Yeah, that little whole image building around it.
Atmosphere.
Brahmanishtam. Brahmanishtam is what? Anything to prove anything? There is nothing to prove.
It also creates a whole lot of students who can become good teachers with the same thought process. So, with the wrong information, they can teach the rest also. It spreads the wrong.
Absolutely. So that means that whole bliss gets transferred, starts a new parampara. Andhena niyamanaha antaha. Blind parampara. Deviation from the truth. I'm bliss. Some kind of a state of mind, as though it will stretch forever. There is no state of mind which stretches forever. Detached from your material world. All that is here is Ishvara. And it gets transferred from, it becomes another tradition altogether. Okay? So therefore, who you go to is critical for this learning. Guru plays a very critical part in this whole transfer of knowledge. Because if the Guru himself has no idea or vague idea or partial idea, how will you transfer that? And that vague idea gets what? Replaced with some wrong notion, and that along with that vague idea gets transferred what? The wrong notion. And that's why then when you come full of all these things to a traditional teaching, then what happens? Conflict. Because everything that you have invested in, everything that you have spent so much time acquiring, now what do you have to do? Drop. Oh my God. That becomes a huge job again. Dropping everything that you have learned so far. But that, because along with the dropping, your what? Sense of achievement also gets questioned. This is why every day you have to pray to connect to you to a teacher who knows. Because it makes world of difference. Same Vedanta. Who delivers it? And whether that person understands what that person is talking about or not. Shrotriyaha Brahmanishta. You don't know. When you meet a person, can you find out whether this person is Brahmanishta or not? There is no way you can find out. Then, how will you know? That's why people, whenever they come and they say, yeah, I went here, I went here, I went here, I went here, they went all kinds of places. Because it's true. How will you know who's really Brahmanishta? The only way you can, in fact, you never know, or until you expose yourself to that teaching through that teacher and see how much clarity this teacher is able to give you. Is building just some vague concepts or giving you clarity? Okay. So the teacher is, the guru is a guru who has clarity of what they are talking about. Okay. So therefore, guru becomes critical in this learning. Now, the next question is, how does the guru handle this limited word to convey the limitless? Because guru is also equally stuck with what? Limited words only. Guru doesn't have some special words. And if the guru starts using some special words, you will not understand anything. Because you can only understand what is within your vocabulary. Excellent. Absolutely. So that means the guru knows how to handle those words. Excellent. How to handle those words to convey what needs to be conveyed. Very good. This is the whole method of that conveying is analyzed within Vedanta Shastra. Every word has its vachyartha. Vachyartha is what? The direct meaning of that word. Now, using the the direct meaning. But what I want to convey is not the direct meaning, but something else. What will I do? This using the same word, but not conveying the direct meaning, but the implied meaning, there is a method. That method is, there are three, which is called taking from Vachyartha to Lakshyartha. From the direct meaning to the implied meaning. Vachyartha to Lakshyartha. How do you take? There are three types of Lakshyartha. Lakshana. One is what? Lakshanas. One is Jahal Lakshana, Ajahal Lakshana, and the third is Bhagat Tyagat Lakshana. Jahal Lakshana. Jahal Lakshana is, we use it all the time. You're in a race course and you say white runs. White is the word used by you, which is, what is the Vachyartha of white? White color. What are you indicating? Horse. You are using white, but the direct meaning of white is not your intention. What is your intention? Horse. So when you say white runs, the direct meaning of the word white is the color. The Lakshyartha, what you want to convey through use of that word is what? The horse. But if you want to convey the horse, why did you use the word white?
To distinguish.
Excellent. Right? There are many different horses and one of them is white. So the white is not totally unconnected to what you want to convey. If it was totally unconnected, you are using something totally different to, it can never convey what it wants to convey. Right? That white that you use is useful because for the other person it conveys what? Not any other horse but the white. This is what we call Jahal Lakshana. Jahal Lakshana means what actually has to take place in your mind is what? The knowledge of horse. So you have to give up what? The direct meaning of white, and you have to understand what? The Lakshya. The Lakshya is the horse.
What exactly means Jahal?
Jahal means you give up whiteness, but in place of that giving up, you bring what? The horse.
This is meaning of Jahal.
Jahal. Ajahal Lakshana. This is the second method. We were walking the other night by the Ganga, and there was this beautiful house on Ganga. And we were all wondering whose house it is, and it is, by the way, Jaipuriya house. The people who own the franchise of Pepsi. Jaipuriya, it's called Jaipuriya house. Now I remember, it's Jaipuriya house. Now, when I use the word house on Ganga, was the house on Ganga? Excellent. So that means I'm using what? House on Ganga, which are the words used. What am I conveying? Banks of Ganga. Right? So now, in order to understand, right? So how is Ganga? My intent, what I want to convey is not Ganga, but what? Bank of Ganga. But I didn't use the word bank at all. Okay? So, but you understand, what do you understand? If you took it as Vachyartha, the direct meaning, you would imagine what? A house which is like on floating Ganga. But you don't understand that. You already automatically added what? The banks in your understanding. So this is what we call Ajahal Lakshana. The difference is you keep Ganga. It's not on the banks of Kaveri or Narmada. It is you, in your understanding of the bank, you don't have to give up Ganga. It is what? Ganga yaha tire. You keep Ganga and you add what? The banks. Ajahal Lakshana. There is a third method which is what we call Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. What is Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana? Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana, the tradition gives us a kind of a easy example. Then we'll see how it applies here. They said that imagine you had a childhood friend and the childhood friend's name is, you give a name. Huh? Pappu. So, that's a nice name to give. Okay, so now your childhood friend Pappu, right? That you were playing every day together and you were eating in each other's house. So this Pappu, and then somehow imagine that you went abroad, like almost everybody does. Nowadays they all go at a very young age. By the time they finish 10th, they all go abroad. Now you went abroad, you went to either England or US or wherever. Some of them go to Australia. And you went. And you began what? Living there. You were studying there. After studying, you got a job. So you are a little bit out of touch. So you didn't see this Pappu for 30 years. Now after 30 years, you come back to India and you are invited for a party by your friend where Pappu also happens to be there. But when that Pappu is there, you don't recognize because after 30 years, Pappu has become Pappu. So now now the pappu, that little pappu that you were playing with, has become papa. And what? All the hairline is receding a little bit. He has gained a little paunch. The face has changed. Right? So you walk past pappu and nothing happens. Now, there is a friend, another friend who has invited you for the party, has been in touch with pappu and also is in touch with you because he's called you for the party. Now he recognizes that, hey, these people are not even recognizing each other. And he comes up to you and he says, he brings this person in front of you, pappu front of you, and he says, what? That pappu of that time and place, which was what? That little pappu that you were playing with, is the same pappu of this time and this place and this place. Saha ayam devadattaha. That pappu in Shastra, that name of the person is Devadatta. When I tell you that, what happens? Immediately, connection. That pappu of that time and that place gets equated to what? This pappu of this time and this place. The time and place you are asked to give up. Where is the equation? Pappu. Time was different. Time is gone. The place is gone. Because time was different. Space was different. But what remains the only thing? Same, pappu. So therefore, this is what we call bhaga tyaga lakshana.
So you're made to,
In,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
you're made to recognize a link to the object. Is that what is it simply?
That means in your understanding,
Yeah.
right, what you have to give up is what? Different time and different place. And what you have to retain is what? Pappu. Bhaga tyaga lakshana. Now, how does it apply to all this that we are studying? As I told you, that the words are limited. So the direct meaning, the vachyartha cannot convey what it wants to convey. So now, the very words have to be made into what? Lakshana. To indicate what I want to indicate, what Shastra wants to indicate. Which of the three Lakshanas are used? Excellent. Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. Very good. How did you figure it out?
Time and space has to be deleted out of seeing. When you see an object, you're seeing it with time and space. So if you want to go beyond that, you have to drop both of them.
Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana is used. Three words are used. Very good. Three words are used to indicate Brahman. The first word, Satyam. Satyam is generally, it starts with existence. There is a very beautiful Bhasyam of Adi Shankaracharya in Taittiriya Upanishad, where he analyzes the meaning of these three words, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman. The word Satyam means existence. If I just use the word existence, what meaning, what is the direct meaning then it conveys existence
Time
within time and
within
space. Excellent. Because any existence that you have seen with your eyes is that of existence which is within time and space. Now, I cannot not use any words. I have to use that word existence, but from that word existence, I have to remove those things which are in your buddhi. I have to remove what? The connotation of limitation. I have to make that existence what? Free of limitation of time and space. Lakshana. I am using the word sat, which means existence. The vachyartha of any meaning, of the meaning of existence for us is existence within time and space. But having used that word, I have to remove the time and space limitation from that word. How will I make you remove that limitation of time and space from that word which is existent? I have a method. The method is analyze the very time. Time is unit within unit within unit within unit. All these units are measurements based on what? One presence. That is what? Truth of time. Because the measurements happen when there is something that is, which gets measured in terms of multiple units of time, is the very basis of time. Space. Again, I said, concept. The concept of what? Something based on something which is. That presence, because of which the concept exists. Concept of space exists. Is that presence which is not within space, but what? Truth of space. Bhagat Tyaga Lakshana. Consciousness. Satyam Jnanam. Jnanam is Sat Chit. The word Chit. Word Chit for us means what? Consciousness. But the way we see consciousness is what consciousness? That little consciousness. That's why Carl was asking, can you change the word observer and all? Because that only thing that I know is my little consciousness of things. Right? So when the Shastra uses the word Chit, what is the Vachyartha? What is the immediate meaning of that awareness or consciousness we get? Something which is limited to our mind. From this limited meaning, what the teacher has to do the job and make you see what? It is not something which is specific to your mind, it is something which is what? Truth of every mind. To make you see that, there is a whole methodology involved. What is the methodology? the methodology that we saw was what? Drik, Drishya, Viveka. First few days of Advaita Bhashya. Made you see that what you think, that consciousness which you think is what located to the mind, is what consciousness is what we call sentiency. Sentiency is part of Sukshma Sharira, which makes this physical body alive, which is making it think. But when the Shastra uses the word Chit, does it refer to this function of subtle body? No. When Shastra uses this word Chit, the Vachyartha of that Chit is what? That little thing in your mind which makes your mind sentient. The Lakshyartha, what Shastra wants to convey is what? That not something which is what going on in your mind, but the invariable presence because of which you see whatever is going on in your mind. Unchanging, attribute-less presence. Chit Swarupa.
So essentially you take away the time and space, like what remains is the consciousness and the eternal
Absolutely.
limitlessness. Take away the limits.
You take away the limits which are inherent in those words. You use those words. You can't but use those words. But you take away the limitations which are conveyed by those words by using a methodology of making you see. Take you from that little sentiency to what? That awareness which is invariable. Then, through other methods, it also takes away what? Individuality that Sankhya is stuck with and Yoga is stuck with. By asking you what question? What attribute will you give to this awareness which will distinguish this awareness from that one? And also by making you see the relationship between time, space and that awareness. Methods. Sophisticated methods of reading. Using a word and removing its limitations. What do you then arrive at when I use the word Satyam, existence, and free it from time and space? When I use the word Jnanam, free it from time and space, that existence which is in form of awareness, there are no two things here, becomes what? Anantam. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Shastra. Makes you see this reality. Using the words makes you see, takes you to your own limitlessness. That awareness, one thing I have to refine a little bit more, because if I don't refine it, I have not done justice to this tradition. The word consciousness, when Adi Shankaracharya explains in Taittiriya Upanishad Bhasyam, he says it is Jnata, Jnanam and Jneyam Swarupa. Jnata means that consciousness is not only the truth of the knower, it is also the truth of Jneyam. Jneyam is what? The object of knowledge. Jnata is the knower and Jneyam is what? Object of knowledge. This object of knowledge, is it away from consciousness? No. Because if it was, well, can you call consciousness limitless? You can't. This existence and consciousness is not only the truth of the knower, it is also the truth of object of knowledge. This object of knowledge, cup. As I told you, the whole leading methodology, where does it take you? Atoms, particles, concept, and then Ishvara. It takes you to Ishvara. That intelligence which organizes all this to make that matter, that metal, what that metal is. And what is the truth of Ishvara? The status of Ishvara came from where? Awareness. Excellent. Janmantyasya yataha. It takes you back to that awareness. Chit. So that means that Chit not only pervades what? All the knowers, but also what? The object of knowledge. Jnata, Jnanam and Jneyam. And the process of knowing. How does this object get known to you? What is a method through which this object gets known to you? When you have to know the steel glass, does the steel glass have to enter your brain? No. Without entering your brain, you can come to know the presence of steel glass. What is that mechanism through which you can come to know the existence of this steel glass? That perception is further described in slight detail. Perfect. Perception. It is called vritti jnana. The whole process is called vritti jnana. But perception that you are saying, Satish, is right. But that whole perception, the mechanism through which the perception takes place is explained in the Shastra. What happens is that this glass is seen through where you need your eyes. Without eyes, the form cannot be recognized. So you need the light. If there was no light, if your eyes were there and this steel glass was there, you will not see it. So you need an external light which lights up this object. But if your eyes are closed, you will not see it. So that means you also have to then open your eyes. But if your eyes are open and if it's looking somewhere else, will you see the glass? No. So not only your eyes have to be open, all these conditions have to be met, please understand, for perception to take place. There has to be an external light, there has to be an object, there has to be a means of knowledge which is the eyes. The eyes cannot be faulty. Imagine you have very, you are not far-sighted, what is it called? You are short-sighted. Not far-sighted, is short-sighted. you're short-sighted and this is not within the range of your sight, will you see it? No. So not only you have to have eyes, but it should have what? The ability to capture the range within which this object is. Yeah, if it is not, then you wear glasses. You are right. Right? So not only, but your eyes are perfect, but your eyes are looking somewhere else. Still not. So many conditions have to be met before this little perception can take place and give you knowledge of the steel glass.
You know, even if you are looking in that direction,
Condition. Very good. Something that we take for granted, how many different things have to happen before it actually takes place?
And we should not also have a perceived notion of it. Preconceived notion can also create a...
Yeah? If you have a preconceived notion, that will also interfere with this knowing.
And sometimes you choose not to see it also.
That you choose, I mean,
That's a
yeah, that is another huge problem, right? That is what we call problem of dissociation, something which is there, or denial. It is there and I don't want to acknowledge its presence. Our knowledge is fraught with so many limitations. You want to go? Okay, yeah. This whole, in order for this knowledge to take place, all these conditions have to be met. Light, object, eyes, the readiness of the eyes, no problem with the eyes, mind behind it, no denial.
Looking in that direction.
Looking in that direction. When all these conditions are met, what happens? Then what the mind does is, so if all these conditions are met, what happens? When all these conditions are met, the eyes capture the form of this glass and send the signals to where? To the brain. And when that brain receives those signals, what does it do? It says, it creates a thought of a glass, please understand, which takes on the form of what? The image of this glass. This is what we call vritti jnana. If you want to see the glass, there is no external glass which is entering your buddhi. There is a thought created in your mind, which is the thought of a glass. And what do you recognize? The thought of that glass. That whole process is called jnana. Next minute, you want to know flower. The thought of glass has to be gone. If it gets stuck to your buddhi, you will not understand it. The thought of glass has to go and another thought has to occur, and that of what? Flower. So if you want to know flower, a corresponding thought has to occur in your mind. Then you see, oh, this is flower. So every knowledge takes place in your buddhi. Now, let me finish this idea, it's very important. Now, when, imagine that this flower is let's think about two similar flowers. One is what? Mogra and chameli. Mogra and chameli are two similar flowers. Right? Now, if I put mogra in front of you, mogra is jasmine and chameli is? Chameli is jasmine, then champa is
Champa is frangipani.
frangipani.
Champa is
Okay.
Western.
One is jasmine and the other one is frangipani. Okay, rose and but something similar, not something totally different. Which one?
Carnation and
Yeah,
chrysanthemum.
because there is a real similarity, right? Okay, jasmine and frangipani. Surya will always, because frangipani is a French word, so if I say frangipani, he'll say this is wrong pronunciation. This is a French word. You have to pronounce it the French way. Frangipani. Is this how we pronounce? It's close to it. Never gets exact. It never gets exact.
No, it has to go like this.
So now, if what is in front of me is champa, but because of similarity, the thought arises in your mind, and that is of frangipani. Is this called knowledge? This is called confusion. Why? Because the vritti has arose in your mind of something else and not of what is. So what is knowledge? When the vritti arises in my mind, which is in keeping with what is, I call it knowledge. When the vritti arises in my mind, which is not in keeping with what is, I call it what? Error. Right? So that whole process of knowing, everything we have to convert into a vritti, a thought. And that thought, whether it is accurate thought or not accurate thought, what is the content of that thought? Awareness. Excellent. So that means this awareness is not only the knower, not only the object of knowledge, but also what? The means of knowledge. Jnata, Jnanam and Niyam. Truth of all three. When you make that consciousness not only Jnata consciousness, but truth of all three, and truth of time and space, then that consciousness becomes what? Limitless. Otherwise, you restrict it. Any restriction makes it what? Limited. So you use these words and you do what? Through this methodology, you take out limited meanings. Extremely important. Otherwise, you all have whatever meaning of consciousness. You'll walk home with giving your own meaning of consciousness, your own understanding of limitless. Everybody will be what? In their own world. The teacher has to do this job. Using the words and what? Retaining one part and giving up what? All the other parts to convey the meaning precisely. In spite of this conveyance, if the student is not ready for that pramana to meet, all these conditions have to meet. You are explaining, but your mind is thinking about the food. What must be there for lunch? You miss the whole thing. Right? So therefore, this, by the word consciousness, the first question of Kal, that when you use the word consciousness, the thing that comes to my mind is only this little knower. Shastra is a methodology to remove that connotation by saying it's not only the truth of you knower, it's truth of all the knowers, all the objects of knowledge and the means of knowledge. then I free that meaning from any limitation. I make it what? Limitless. Yuta, you had a question?
No, it's,
Thank
it
you.
was a little step in between what in my mind was missing.
Is missing? Is still missing?
No, it's not important.
It's not
It was
important.
going on.
Okay. So now we have to go for lunch.
Last question, small question. You say sometimes Ananda and sometimes Ananta.
Excellent.
The direct meaning is Ananta.
Excellent.
In our books, it's only meant always, Ananda.
Wonderful. This is a very, very important point. Extremely important point. In most of the texts, in Taittiriya Upanishad, it is what? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Anantam.
That is unlimited or limitless.
It is free from any limitation. That existence is not what? Existence within time and space. That consciousness is not what? Your individual consciousness or the consciousness that exists only knower. It is that which is what? There in the objects of knowledge and also in the means of knowledge. Okay? And that is Anantam. Anantam means that existence and consciousness is being time-wise not limited, space-wise not limited, object-wise not limited, it is limitless. Anantam. Right? Now, Carl's question is a very interesting and a very relevant question. Many times you listen to, Satchit Ananda Rupoham. Instead of Anantam, the Satyam is Sat, Jnanam is Chit. Anantam is getting what?
Boundless.
Ananda. Here he is saying Ananda. Boundless is the correct meaning. But people, because of the word Ananda, they translate it as bliss. And imagine some kind of a state of mind. This is a huge trip. Because even though this state of mind retains for rest of your life, but that is also impossible. Because every thought by definition is what is going to come and go. Even if it retains till the time that you die, how long it has, when did it start? After the time that you listened and understood Vedanta. That means it was not there for how long? All these cycles of creation, it was not there. After this body and mind goes, which is after, let's say, 30, 40 years, it will not be there. Can you call this limitless? That is foolishness. Right? So therefore, the real meaning is Anantam, which is what? The existence and consciousness has no limitation. Then the question is, why is the word Ananda used?
If you know the limitless, then you get.
Then the answer is tomorrow.
The answer is going to be
Really so thank you.
yeah.
9:45 the next.
Next 9:45.
Answer is with the time.
13th December. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.